Hello again, you Midas Mighty. Harry Litman of Talking Feds here with a reaction to two cases currently in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office involving Donald Trump. One at its very last stages and one at its very first stages. So the last one is a criminal trial against the Trump organization. You can have a trial against an organization and they can get penalties and they can be severe, up to and including kind of a death penalty in which an organization ceases to exist in its then form. This is the one that involves Alan Weisselberg, the very loyal chief financial officer who first came to the organization through Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump, and who resisted all attempts to make him cooperate against Donald Trump and was charged with crimes as a result. And these are sort of tax evasion crimes. The basic idea is he got benefits in the form of a car and tuition to private schools for his grandchildren, but they were disguised. They were sort of directly paid for by the organization, even though they were ordinary compensation, and that's a tax violation. And that was the idea, says the charge. It was in order to save the Trump organization and Weisselberg himself from having to pay what should have been taxes on it. So Weisselberg pleaded guilty but didn't cooperate against Trump, but his sentence required him to testify truthfully at this and maybe other trials. He gets a very light time in jail, a few months, but with quite a hammer or sort of Damocles, you could say, over his head, because if he found a lie in this trial, all of a sudden he's looking at what for him would be a lifetime sentence, many, many years. Okay, so the case has now gone to the jury. Of course, the Trump organization defended by saying, it was all Weisselberg's idea. The organization had nothing to do with it. Donald Trump had nothing to do with it. And that prompted some back and forth in the final arguments that where the state said, the DA said Trump did know about it. Anyway, that all matters because the key and pivotal legal issue here will be whether the jury decides that what Weisselberg did was in behalf of. Can you parse that kind of cipher of a phrase, in behalf of? Not something you hear, normally in Times Square or at Nathan's, but that's the law under New York. And basically it means the jury is going to have to find that Weisselberg did it not just for himself personally, but to benefit the organization, which of course it did benefit the organization. They had a lot less to pay in taxes on the money that otherwise would have been regular compensation to him. But can a jury have a reasonable doubt that that's why he was doing it? So the jury has now received final arguments and instruction on the legal meaning of in behalf of and other things from the judge, and they start deliberating in earnest Tuesday morning. That is Tuesday, December 6th, and we'll see whether they got caught up in that legal phrase, and even if they don't and they convict, there will be an appeal, and it's the kind of weird case that maybe 2 years from now a court of appeals says, hold on just a second, this whole legal standard was hard to understand. All right, so that's the first big one, and it's, as I say, the very last stages. The lawyering is all done, nothing now but to wait for the jury to come back and then figure out the sentence if there's a conviction. Conversely, at the early stages is a criminal investigation against Donald Trump, except it's a renewed second time around investigation. So you may remember the previous district attorney, a man named Cyrus Vance Jr., was really bearing down on Trump for tax violations and financial misstatements involving Michael Cohen's payoff to Stormy Daniels. Remember that? Just before the election, payoffs to her basically as hush money to keep her from talking, but they were characterized wrongly as compensation to Cohen, who of course now is more than ready to spill the beans. But the weird thing here is that the Bragg previously decided not to do the case. Cyrus Vance had brought in two real pros, highly respected prosecutors with federal experience in these kinds of complicated financial cases, Kerry Dunn and Mark Pomerantz. They had a whole memo saying, let's go for it. And Bragg came in, sort of ignored them for weeks, and then just summarily told them, we're not doing it, guys. They left in a huff. It's still a big controversy, but whatever the bottom line there, it's really remarkable that Bragg has decided to revive it. He's again brought in extra talent. The former number 3 guy in the Department of Justice is going to be maybe spearheading this. A very respected guy, although not a criminal lawyer, mainly a civil lawyer. But why is he doing it? What's he have in mind? We'll find out. A couple more wrinkles there. There could be a statute of limitations problem, except under New York law, the statute doesn't run for days when Trump wasn't in New York. And of course, he's been in Mar-a-Lago and avoiding his hometown, where he had said famously he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and nobody would care. Now they would care. New York is no longer as congenial to him, but staying away means he could still be subject to these charges. And then, what if there is an investigation? How much do they have to remake the wheel? And because he's going to have to convene a grand jury, it'll probably be a special grand jury because regular ones are only 4 months. And do you start from scratch, etc.? Just when would it be ripe to actually indict the former president if he decides to do it? So those are among the head-scratching questions that came to the fore when the New York Times and others reported that, lo and behold, the DA Alvin Bragg, who, and maybe his most famous act to date, he rejected this case, is now back hot on the trail. All right, so there you have it, you Midas Mighty. One case at the very, very end, and we're watching what a jury will do. One at the very, very beginning, and we're watching what the New York DA will do. Lots of action in New York and all around the country, and big events happening. And when they next do, I'll be here to give you my reaction. And until then, wanted to just tell you again, you can check us out on our own YouTube channel now, Talking Feds YouTube. But coming at you now on the famous Midas Mighty YouTube channel, and we'll be doing it again next time. Until then, talk to you later.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.